Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al,
And I'm Micah.
and we're here today to talk about cottagecore games. Have you been on a podcast since we changed that introduction?
I have not.
There you go, then. It's now cottagecore games, not farming
Okay.
games.
All right.
Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense.
it does. It does. Once people actually know what the term means.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt like I was too often just saying like it's not a farming game, but we're going to cover it anyway because it feels like a farming game.
That's true. You're right.
And so we're like,
yeah.
why don't we just say what it actually is?
Yep. That makes sense.
So yeah, welcome, Micah. How you doing? It's been a while since we've had you on the podcast.
I'm doing good. Just, busy, lots of work. So I'm
Yeah,
tired a lot, but it's plenty of time to wind down. All my time winding down from work is spent playing games. So
yeah, yeah.
can't complain too much.
It's good. That's good. Awesome. Well, I've got Micah on because I finally bought Little Dragons Cafe on the eShop sale, and I was like, let's schedule an episode to actually talk about it because I think it was like 4 years ago or something you first mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. I think maybe 2019, maybe
Oh,
even before then.
that's a whole different world.
Yeah, it is.
Ridiculous.
It's a different time. But when you said that you messaged me and said that you bought it and wanted to do an episode about it, I was very excited because I was singing that game's praises
Mm.
for the whole year that I was obsessed with it, and I felt like nobody cared.
Yeah, yeah. It's just there's so many games, you know.
It's true.
We'll
It's
get to
true.
them all eventually.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about that. Obviously, beforehand, we've got a bunch of news. But first of all, Micah, what have you been up to?
Zelda.
Zelda?
Just Zelda. That's pretty much it.
This is a
It's just
Zelda
been
game, huh?
Zelda. There is, in fact, they have released a new Zelda game.
Wow.
That's pretty much. I've been playing a little bit of Pokemon Infinite Fusion. I don't know if you know what that
What on
is.
earth is that?
It is a Pokemon fan game that is essentially
Oh, yeah, I know
Can-
what you mean.
Kanto
Yeah.
and Johto.
Oh,
But it's they have DNA splicer items where
this is ridiculous.
you can fuse any two Pokemon, and there are well beyond Gen 2 Pokemon in the game. So I think there's somewhere around like 175,000 combinations you can make, and it's all like custom sprite work. They have a huge community that's done like a huge community of like sprite artists and stuff that have done custom sprites so that every fusion is like, and it's not just like, you know, AI generated like combination of two pixel illustrate. It's actual like
Yeah,
handmade pixel art for each combo, which is
yeah.
pretty
Wow.
incredible. And it plays really well. It's like surprisingly well made. But it's just kind of fun to goof around in.
Yeah. Is
So
it
I've been
based?
playing
Is
a
that
little bit of that.
is that a ROM hack or is it like a
It's
completely fresh thing?
it's a completely it's made in, I think it's Pixel Game Maker Studio.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So it's not it's not a like a ROM hack of like Emerald or something like that, or
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah,
Wow.
it's very interesting. It's incredible what like a community of Pokemon fans can do when they're not like really upset about something and instead just like banding together to make something cool.
Yeah. I love this. This is great. This is the sort of thing that, like, I mean, obviously, I'm surprised it hasn't been, like, taken down at any point, but, like,
Yeah,
this is the sort
me
of thing
too.
where, like, this is why copyright is stupid. Let people go crazy with this stuff, right?
Mhm.
This is ridiculous fun. I love it.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I am a little surprised too. I don't know though. I feel like typically they leave like ROM hacks alone at this point, but
Yeah.
or like quote unquote ROM hacks.
Yeah.
This isn't really a ROM hack, but who knows? Who knows what goes through the mind of
Well, that's the thing. You don't know what they're actually thinking because, like, sometimes they don't touch things, and then sometimes they'll touch the weirdest of things. You're like, why on
Yep.
earth would you do that? Maybe it's just not got enough publicity. It looks like it's been going around since 2015.
Yeah, and it just
Wow.
recently has started to like pick up steam a little bit and get a lot more coverage on like YouTube, TikTok, stuff like that. So, I
Oh my
think
word! There's a Poliwag and Kangaskhan fusion, which like it's not just. This is what you mean about like the custom stuff. Like it's not just like a blue Kangaskhan or something, but it's like a Poliwag as a Kangaskhan with a Poliwag inside like a bubble
yeah.
stomach. Like it is amazing. That's perfect. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, it's really creative and interesting, and like the all the sprite work is really well done. They added, even though it's like Kanto and Johto and uh, pixel sprites and stuff, it's they added Mimikyu,
Yeah.
and all of the Mimikyu fusions are just kind of unhinged, and I love it.
Oh my word. I feel like this is dangerous to know.
It's pretty fun. I will say it's a big download because there's two options. You can either download the game and then have the game download the
Ooh.
sprites as it needs them.
2 gigabytes for the preloaded one. My word.
Yes, and then there is the preloaded one, which has all of the sprites and it installs. They like puts it all in the game immediately, so that
Yeah.
you don't have to download anything.
I'm definitely not Googling how to put this on my Steam Deck.
That's funny you say that. That's what I am playing it on. So
Nice. I presume it's just a Windows build that you just run through the Steam Deck
yeah, yep.
stuff.
You just
It works. This is the thing. Like, I know, I don't know about you. I really love the Steam Deck, and I think that Valve have done a really good job of integrating the Windows stuff with it as well. Like the fact that
hmm
so many games just work out the box, just a Windows build, just running on Linux is just incredible.
yeah.
Like because like I was for a long time a Linux user. Like that was just. It was just a thing that I did, right? Like I didn't run Windows or Mac for like 15 years. Like that was just my until I decided, you know what, life is too short. Um, and and yeah, games on Linux was just horrific. Even using something like Wine or whatever to actually run these things because they
Yeah.
just never worked well. Whereas like I've run like 10 completely different Windows games on the Steam Deck with no issues at all,
hmm
which is incredible.
Yeah, it's great. It's such a nice. My brother was just texting me last night asking me what I thought about the Steam Deck, and I was sending him paragraphs about how much I like it. Yeah, it's really great that they've made it so. I mean, I've never touched Linux before this either, so I've always been afraid of Linux, but it's so easy to just like it's literally a power down option. Like it's an option to just switch into the desktop mode
Yeah.
and then just it's such an easy and accessible thing. It's like really
Yeah.
not hard to add non-Steam stuff to it. It's really
Yeah, I
great.
think I think it's one of these things where like using a Switch is still easier, right? Like
hmm
the way
Oh,
to
for
get it is
sure.
just 100% easy.
Yep.
But the customizability, like if you are able to do that sort of thing, it is it is still so much easier than doing things in any other way.
hmm
And if you have any patience for doing custom stuff, it's great. And the amount of different stuff you can do is fantastic. So like I think for the casual person, like something like a Switch is still going to be better for you. But if you
Yeah.
have like any customizable bone in your body, the Steam Deck is just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. I definitely still you're right. Like I primarily am using the Switch, but if there's something that I can't play on the Switch, I move to the Steam Deck for it.
I think I'm at the point where if it's on Steam, unless it's cheaper on the Switch, I will generally buy it on Steam now and play it on my Steam Deck. Not least because it's actually more it's more ergonomic to hold. Like it's
hmm
kind of destroyed the Joy Cons for me. Um, and especially if I'm getting like Kickstarters and stuff, they all come on Steam first. So I'm obviously getting the Steam code.
Right.
But yeah, if it's a Switch only game or if it's cheaper on the Switch, then of course I'm getting it on Switch. I'm not going to say I'm not going to play that, right? Because the Switch is still really fun to play on, and I wouldn't not play Zelda just because it's on the Switch. Like that's a really
Right.
stupid way to do things. But you know,
It's it, I even in the situation that I'm in where if it's not on the Switch, I'm playing it on the Steam Deck, and if it's on the Switch, I'm playing it on the Switch. The amount of things that are on Steam that like if it's a it's only on like my console options are Switch, PS or PS5 or like
yeah,
Xbox or whatever. Typically, it's also on Steam, so
yeah,
it's it's nice to be able to move over, have
yeah.
everything handheld.
I am not gonna lie, my PS5 is a Spider-Man console, right? Like, that is what I bought it for, and that is what is going to remain till the day it dies.
But we're about to get the Wii U gamepad for it, so
I know, well, yeah, and that's actually really interesting. Like, it's obviously going to be stupidly expensive,
of
um,
course.
and it only like streams from your PS5. But
Hmm.
personally, that's what I'm looking for, right? Because
Yes.
like getting the power of a PS5 in the palm of my hands, to use a Spider-Man quote. Um, sorry. Uh, I watched Spider-Man the other day. What can I say? Um, the new Spider-Man film, fantastic, very good. Go watch it. What was I saying? Yes, being able to play PS5 games without having the TV on, that's what I want. I don't actually play games out the house. Like it's just not. I work from home.
Hmm.
I obviously live from home. Like if I'm going out, it's because I'm going out to do something. I'm not going out to do something and then playing games there, right? Come on, that's not what I'm doing.
Right.
So
Right.
if I'm playing, it's in my house, either in my office when I'm definitely working, I'm not playing games, or in the living room in the evening when the kids are in bed and we want to watch something on the TV. I don't want to make my wife watch what I'm playing on the TV.
Hmm.
So the idea of being able to use my PS5 for games that are really good, like I'm considering, for example, getting Sonic Frontiers, which is on the Switch, but is it really on the Switch? Like it's there, but it's not going to run really well. Like, so being able to get the power of the PS5 for that game, but still have it handheld,
As
perfect.
someone who bought and played Sonic Frontiers on the Switch, I can tell you firsthand, hit it on something else.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not great.
No,
It's
no.
got that we did whatever we could to get this to run on the Switch kind of
Ah,
feel to it, where it's
right.
like
Okay. It's like a
everything is really
checkbox.
blurry.
Yeah.
Everything feels like,
I think.
it's
I think
moving in a dream. I don't know. How
the
to...
thing is, I think that the new Zelda shows you can get games running well on the Switch.
Hmm.
Although it's not perfect, there are obviously still some issues, right? There's
Yeah.
still some slowdowns. But I think it shows that you can, given enough time and enough effort and enough money, you need all those three things.
Yes.
You can get a game that big running really well on the Switch. But I mean, one thing about Tears of the Kingdom is there's not actually a lot happening in most of the time.
Hmm.
Like, if you look at something like Sonic or you look at something like Pokemon, there are lots of things around you all the time. But actually, in Zelda, there's not a huge amount around you all the time. And like, I know that the way that it works technically with like things far away is they're not modeling things at that point. They just throw up a few pixels to make it look like there's something there, and then you can look through the like camera thing, the zoomy, what's the magnifying for far away.
Yeah.
Like,
The
what's the word?
binoculars. I don't know
Binoculars.
what
There you go.
the.
That's a word. That's a word. I don't know what they
I
call it
don't.
in game, but anyway, you
Yeah, I
know
don't
what
know
I
what they
mean.
call it again.
You know what I mean now. That's
The
fine.
zoom. Yeah, the zoom. The
The
camera zoom
zoom.
feature.
Yeah, and then it actually starts modeling things for that small area.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work for most games because you have more detailed things that you need to be seeing off in the distance.
Hmm.
And they just don't have a lot of complicated stuff in the distance, right? There's like the dragons is probably the most complicated thing you have in the distance. That's about it.
Yeah.
You don't need to
I,
model like a bokoblin 3 miles away. You're not going to see it. You don't care about it.
right. Right. And I think that like even I really do think that a lot of it comes down to like optimization and
Hmm.
how much time is put into optimization and stuff like that. Like there are even so there are like at the distance that things come into the like field of view
Hmm.
or like depth of field for Zelda
Hmm.
could it, I mean I'll be honest, it's been very hard for me to, and I'm sure that this conversation um will be had
Hmm.
with other people, but Oh, what I'm saying is I feel like this is probably going to come up during Greenhouse, so you can cut this out if you want. But
It's all good. It's all good. No, I think we
I
don't really talk about this sort of stuff in the greenhouse episode. Go ahead.
okay. It's been hard to not compare it to Pokemon. As a
Mm.
Pokemon fan who has played a lot of Scarlet and Violet and enjoyed it, it's been hard to not compare a an open world game on the same platform to that game. And I do think that a big part of that is just the optimization and maybe how much time they were given to optimize the game. Maybe it's that, they brought in Monolith Soft to help with development, and Monolith Soft has been, with the Xenoblade games and stuff like that, they've done a lot of kind of open world stuff, so they've got the optimization down. I don't know, but seeing the way that things like even, I don't know, 10 feet away from an NPC and they're moving at like slideshow speed in Pokemon versus like, you've got a whole village of people that are wandering around in Zelda.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I've noticed
it's
I've
it's a little
noticed some
frustrating.
I've noticed some the only place I've really noticed kind of like re-rendering of things is in the depths. If you're flying through the
Hmm.
depths, quite often like the trees will like change model
Yeah.
in your just when you get closer to them. That's the only place I've really noticed that. And there's a few
Hmm.
places where there's like high particle physics in the air and that causes a slowdown. Other than that, I've not really noticed many issues. It's been
Which is also like for the depths at least pretty interesting because
yeah.
there's like pretty impressive because there's so many like particle effects and stuff happening in the depths
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense that they need to re-render a lot of stuff. But
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah, I
mean,
don't know.
I would
It's
always rather like graphics pulled down a little bit and it keeps playing well.
yeah.
That's always my preference.
Hmm. I agree. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to not compare the two, I guess. And
Yeah.
I am sure that a big part of that is how much time they were given to develop this game versus how much time the Pokemon Company
Yeah, I mean it's
gave Game
complicated.
Freak to develop Pokemon.
It's complicated because like as a software developer, right, time doesn't necessarily make things better. Like
Hmm.
in my experience, when you've got a team that's being run by people that make bad decisions, right? Like developers can't just do things, right? Developers
Right.
can't just go, I'm going to make this better, right? You have to do what you're told, and ultimately people make decisions and go, no, this is the priority. You're doing this, and if
Hmm.
they keep making those stupid decisions, even if they get an extra 5 years, they're still just going to make the same stupid decisions over and over and over again, right?
Hmm.
Like that's the thing. And one of the real problems is when you get more time, suddenly they decide, oh well, we can add more features, and then you never actually get to the point of improving the things that need improved. You just end up adding more things that then need to be improved.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it really. I think it just shows that like this game from top to bottom is being created by people who actually care and actually know what they're doing.
Hmm.
Like there's not that like person at the top telling somebody to do something which then is a bad decision, or people at the bottom going, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just going to do things, right? Like everybody knows what they're doing and they know how to do it and blah 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 blah. And where
Right.
exactly the issues are in different games you'll never really know. um and but yeah, it definitely is a problem, and how to solve that problem is complicated. And the problem is that you either end up with like with fewer games or with games with less stuff. And I mean, I still really liked Scarlet and Violet,
I
you
did
know.
too.
And it's
I
like,
absolutely did.
would you say no to whatever the next game is just to get Scarlet and Violet running slightly better? I don't know. Like that's a really, I don't want to have to make that decision, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, I'm okay with I don't know. I'm okay with whatever. Like I'm not like super picky about how I don't know what this says about me, but I'm not super picky about how a Pokemon game performs as long as the experience of the game
Yeah,
is good. And
yeah,
I felt that with Scarlet and Violet, but I wouldn't be opposed to them taking like, maybe an extra year or two between games instead of one every year, or one every,
Yeah,
you know.
I just
Uh,
it just depends really. Like I would
but
not
I know
complain if
that.
the, I obviously I want the game to be better, right? I want it to
Mhm.
look better, I want it to play better, I want it to have better features. But it's just not that simple, you can't
Right.
just say, well, that's fine, make it better, right? Like that's not how life works, sadly.
And I am also very aware that because of the very strict capitalist strategies of the
Yeah,
Pokemon
that
Company
too.
that's never going to happen,
Yeah.
and we will always get them on a schedule because there's merch and plushes and all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff involved in that decision. So uh,
Anyway, so you're enjoying Zelda?
yes. Despite all my inner monologues when I'm seeing something perform really well in Zelda, yeah, it's really great. I am fully aware that I'm still in like the honeymoon phase with it, but
It's been like three
I
weeks.
yeah, and I still like I haven't beaten the game yet. I'm nowhere near that, I don't think,
Well,
because
yeah. What's your current status of things?
I am at the I think I can say this.
I don't care
I'm
about spoilers. Go for it. I'll cut
Okay,
it out if
I'm
it's.
at the fourth temple. I
Oh
am
yeah, yeah.
about to start the fourth temple.
That's fine. That's not a spoiler.
Okay. I just
Look, if someone, if
I feel
someone,
like even
if
saying the word temple
if
is
if someone wants to play Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and they haven't played it yet, I mean, I guess they couldn't. They might not be able to afford it. But let's be honest, they know that there are temples, right? Like nobody doesn't know
sure.
that at this point, if you even slightly care.
Yeah, I guess I because there weren't really temples in Breath of the Wild. There
No.
sort of were. It was like
I,
the
I,
divine beasts, but
interestingly, I'm not really. I don't really see the difference between like this game's ones and Breath of the Wild's ones. I've only done one so far, but it didn't
mhm.
feel significantly bigger.
No, I think it's just the way that it like the puzzles and the way that it um operates more. It feels like a sort of a quote unquote classic Zelda dungeon or like Zelda temple than the divine beasts felt, where like there's something that's like uh poisoning or like cursing the temple, and I mean, if you played Breath of the Wild, at this point that like all the boss fights for the divine beasts were just like slightly different like iterations of
Oh yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
Calamity Ganon.
Interestingly, like I do, yeah, the bosses are definitely more interesting looking, but I actually
Hmm.
think that the battles are less fun.
Interesting. I actually feel like I don't know. I feel like they feel more like Zelda boss battles than
They do. They
the
definitely.
Calamity
It,
Ganon
I,
boss
I
fights felt.
I'll agree with that. They definitely do, but they feel less like the game. This game.
Hmm.
They feel like less than how Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom work in general as boss fights than the Calamity, the other Ganon one, whatever they were
Yeah.
Calamity Ganons, weren't they? I can't remember what the names
Yeah.
of them
I
were.
don't know
Like
what the I think
those
they were just called
those
I don't
ones
know.
felt more in keeping with the way the game works in general. I will agree these ones feel more like older Zelda bosses, but the
Yeah.
game doesn't feel like an older Zelda game. So it feels kind of like they're kind of
I
shoving an old Zelda style thing into a new Zelda style thing, and it doesn't really fit as well.
I don't know. I disagree because I feel like that's what I was gonna say is that like I know that I'm in the honeymoon period for it still, but I do feel like this is very quickly becoming one of my favorite Zelda games of all time, and I feel like it already has far and away beat Breath of the Wild for
Oh,
me
I'd agree with that, 100%.
because of how much more the game feels like a Zelda game than Breath of the Wild felt. And I think that a
I don't
big
think I could go back to Breath of the Wild ever again.
no, I don't think so either. I think Breath of the Wild was a great setup for this game, but I think that this is the optimal game, and I really do feel like there are just the general atmosphere of the game, a lot of the like interactions with NPCs, the way things are designed, like the way that like I don't know the amount of puzzles and stuff that are like and like side quests that are I guess I don't know what it is specifically that makes it feel more like a Zelda game to me than Breath of the Wild felt. But it's definitely there. It definitely feels more. I think some of it too is like music and like sound design and stuff like that that
Hmm.
gives it more of that feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So I mean,
it's
take all of my opinions, by the way, with the knowledge that Breath of the Wild was my first Zelda game, and
okay.
then when I went back and played them all, I hated all the 3D Zelda games. Having said that, I only really played two of them
Which two did
so
you
far.
play though?
So I
That's the
played Ocarina, did not like
okay.
Ocarina,
Okay.
and Skyward Sword, did not like Skyward Sword.
Okay.
So I
Skyward Sword is
haven't.
my favorite Zelda game of all time.
Oh,
So
really interesting. Oh, I hate it. I hate everything about it. I wonder whether I would
play it
have
on the
liked it.
Wii or did you play it on the
I
Switch?
played it on the Switch.
Okay.
I wonder whether I would have liked it had I played it when it came out. Part of the problem is that obviously the gaming industry is not what it was, right?
Sure.
Like
Right.
you can't go back and imagine how this would have played if it was the best thing when it came out, right? Like, but
Right.
it's not the best thing. That we have better things. Therefore, how can I put myself in that? So I
It's
struggle
true.
with that. It's why I hated like
Understandable.
Mario 64. Like, would I have enjoyed Mario 64 if I played it when it came out? Probably, but
Yeah.
I did not like it when I played it first time 6 years ago because it's just not fun now because there's so much more fun games. And it's was it amazing for when it came out? Maybe, but that doesn't make it amazing now.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right. I
complicated.
definitely think that a lot of my ability to go back and play those games and appreciate them now is heavily tied to my
Hmm.
nostalgia for them
Oh,
and not
absolutely.
like how like relevant their design is and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They are very dated games,
yeah,
especially the N64 era
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Great games, but very dated, and a lot has changed for the better since then. But
But I have loved every 2D Zelda game I've played. I've not finished them, but I've enjoyed
mhm,
every 2D Zelda game I've played.
yeah,
So I don't know how much of it is like, oh, maybe this is more like the dungeons in the 3D Zelda games, but it doesn't feel like a 2D Zelda dungeon either. Like
no,
with the
it's
2D dungeons, you were like going through this maze essentially with a bunch of different rooms and trying to get to the
mhm.
end. I don't know how the 3D ones were because I didn't really get through that much of either of those two games. I just really struggled to. I didn't even get to the first dungeon of each of them. That's how much
I
I struggled with them.
I will say that that is absolutely the case. The 3D dungeons are a lot different than the
Okay.
2D Zelda game
Yeah.
dungeons are, and these feel much more like 3D Zelda dungeons than they
Okay.
do
That
2D.
makes that makes much more sense because like looking at the dungeons in this game and looking at the divine beasts in the last one, they feel
Hmm.
much more similar than different. But maybe there's something kind of I'm missing that I would have seen had I actually properly played any of the 3D Zeldas.
Yeah, yeah. There's just a little bit, and the boss fights too feel much more like the boss fights from 3D Zelda dungeon
I
games
do think the
than
boss
they do.
fights feel very similar to 2D Zelda games as well. Like it's
Yeah,
about
that's true.
figuring out a pattern for this large creature
Hmm.
that obviously you can get damaged by it, but it's not like necessarily going in and attacking you with a sword.
Hit the
Like
eyeball. Always
yeah,
hit the eyeball.
exactly. Like
That's
it's
the
just it feels like that, but
yeah.
my point about that was personally I don't enjoy that as much. I much more enjoyed the Ganon battles because it felt more like the other battles in the game.
Yeah. I guess I didn't dislike the Ganon battles. I just it in retrospect now it didn't feel the same way to me that like it felt like a very good game, but it didn't feel like a Zelda game to me, I guess. In a lot of those instances, which is where like this feeling more like a Zelda game and having a lot more things that like I'm familiar with for Zelda games feels more exciting to me that like that's happening and that they've made those decisions, those
Yeah,
designed decisions and stuff. As someone who is a longtime Zelda fan and
I
has
think a
played
lot of it.
every Zelda game,
I think a lot of it is down to that, right? Like
yeah,
I
for
didn't
sure.
play any Zelda games before this one.
Hmm.
I bought Breath of the Wild on Switch release day because I'd pre-ordered a Switch, but the games that I'd pre-ordered were Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart, and One Two Switch, and none of them came out for at least a month after the Switch came out. So I
Hmm.
was like, I don't have any games for this console that I've just
Yep.
bought, and so I wandered into a game shop and went. have you got any copies of that Zelda game? I hear it's good. And they were like, we've got one copy. So I bought that one copy of Breath of the Wild and started
Are you
playing it.
saying 1-2 Switch didn't hold you over until?
Well, it wasn't out initially. It didn't come out
Oh,
for it didn't come out till April, and the Switch came out in March. So yeah, I had to buy this game that I'd never played any of the series called Zelda, and it turned out to be very good and one of my favorite games of all time. It's such a funny, like, I'm obviously not the only person, right? Because more people bought Breath of the Wild than bought all of the other Zelda games combined, right? So
yeah,
this would have been a lot of people's first Zelda game, and it's probably a reason why we'll never get a Zelda game not like Breath of the Wild, or at least not building on top of that idea ever again. We'll
right.
probably get some 2D ones, but they'll never sell as well, right? Because there's just a whole different group of people who this is Zelda to them, right?
Hmm.
Nothing else is Zelda to them.
Right.
Anyway, this
That's
is a game
true.
about
Yeah.
cottagecore games. This is a podcast about cottagecore games.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, you can build a house and
oh, Micah, the house building's so good.
it is. I
I
love it.
can't even like. See, when I first came into that, like someone was like, "Oh, you can build a house," and I was like, "Oh, that's funny. It's going to be like the last one, whatever." And I went and I was like, "Oh my word, this is amazing." I have spent a good 10 hours building my house over the last 3 weeks. I'm
My
not
my
even
only
kidding.
my only gripe is that it maxes at like 15
Ah, yeah.
blocks, which like I hope that maybe in like the inevitable DLC or whatever they add like new rooms or
Oh, I really
the
hope
ability
so.
to add more rooms, something like that, because
I love it so much.
I know it's great. I love it too.
I can't eat.
I built everything inside the house that I really loved, and I wanted to add like the garden and
Yeah,
the like the moat or whatever
the pond. Yeah, yeah,
outside,
yeah.
yeah, the pond outside, but I ran out of space, so
That's fair.
I hit all 15 of my
Yeah, that's
house
fair.
blocks. So,
There's one other thing that annoys me about the house, and this is literally it, and it's the pond. It spawns fish. The garden you
oh,
cannot farm in. You can't farm in the garden.
oh, really?
It's just there. It just looks like a garden, and I'm like, I don't understand why you gave me this pond that I can grow fish in, and you gave me this garden that I can't grow anything in. Why would you do that to me? Why would you make this so good? You would make this house building amazing and addictive and great, and you'd give me a fish pond, but you can't let me grow something in the garden. I don't even like. It doesn't even need to be massively complex, right? You don't need to go, oh, like, oh, well, you can grow carrots and blah blah. You know what? Just let me grow the trees, right? Like the fire tree and the zappy tree and the what. Just let me grow those. Like, let me plant one and it grows. That all. Like, I'm not asking for like everything in the world to be possible to grow, right?
Right.
Just those little trees that you can grow with the fruit. Let me do those, right? Just make it simple, like just three plots. You can just grow three things, and that's it. And I can grow my little fire fruit plant. That's all. Let me grow my fire fruit plant. That's all I
I
want.
actually didn't know that because I didn't. I ran out of blocks. I wasn't able to put my garden in. But that's interesting.
Well, it's a good
That
thing you
it
didn't
spawns
waste
the
it.
fish, but doesn't. I don't. Yeah, I don't necessarily understand that. Is that maybe they were just like adding a farming element is something that we'll do in DLC.
That's fine. If you make me pay for it, I will pay for it. But tell me it's coming. Tell me it's
Yeah.
coming. I want to know it's coming. I will wait for it, and I will pay for it. I will pay like 30 quid for a farming addition to this game.
Yes. Me
100%
too.
I will do that.
And Zelda can wait. I've got farming to do. I got a house to build. I got farming to do.
Shall we talk about some news?
Let's do it.
So before we get into the new news, I wanted to ask Mike if you have any thoughts on the marvelous games that were announced last week, because we talked about them on the podcast last week, me and Johnny.
Hmm.
But obviously, you quite often have a lot of opinions on Story of Seasons and Rune Factory.
I, the fact that they were mostly just announced without like
Mm.
a lot to go off of,
They never
I'm very
learn.
excited, but I don't know that I don't know what I'm looking forward to because there's not a
Mm.
lot to go off.
That's fair.
Obviously I'm gonna probably buy and play whatever they put out for Story of Seasons and
Yeah,
Rune Factory.
of course.
But I am really excited at the prospect of a multiplayer Story of Seasons game.
Yeah,
I am curious to see what that's going to look like.
me too.
But I am excited at that idea.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, what I said in the podcast last week was I have no idea what to expect from it, but the fact that they're making it as a separate game means they obviously have an idea that is radical enough that it's different from a standard Story of
right.
Seasons game, that they
That they
feel it
don't,
needs to be another game, and that I'm excited by in and of itself.
right. And maybe that they don't trust it enough to make it the mainline game.
That's possible, but like
I
maybe.
feel like maybe it's just they know their audience and they know that
Mm,
there's a possibility that people who want to play their single player, you know, the standard Story of Seasons experience, maybe don't necessarily want a multiplayer experience as well, and it kind of gives the option
yeah,
between different games, and I think that's fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Give me
Um,
both. I want both.
yeah,
I want them.
I'm perfectly fine with that too. Uh, Otherwise, yeah, standard Story of Seasons experience. I've always been on board for that, so I'm of course excited about that. I did see what is that? Project Magia? Is it?
Project Dragon,
Project Magia?
the Rune Factory
Oh,
one.
no, not the Rune
Oh,
Factory one. It's the other. It was the other. It's like a some RPG that they're working on, but it's designed
oh,
by the.
I didn't pay attention to anything that wasn't specifically Story Seasons or in Factory.
But
Come
they had
on.
that, and then they had the Project Life is RPG, which
Oh,
whatever whatever those
oh,
words mean together.
just I hate everything about that.
But it kind of it makes me wonder what of that is going to feel like Fantasy Life, which it
Hmm.
was a fantastic game, incredible game, simulator. Again, if you haven't played, every opportunity for that game to come up on this podcast, I will tell you to play it because it's great. Um, and there's a new one coming out. But I'm curious to see how much that interacts with that style of game. If this is like Marvelous's take on Fantasy Life.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe.
but Rune Factory is Rune Factory. It's gonna probably be like Rune Factory. I think 5 made some really great moves, and it still felt kind of in its infancy for what they were
Hmm.
trying to do.
Hmm.
Shifting from previous Rune Factory games
Yeah.
to 5. So hopefully
Well, it was
this
such a
kind
big
of
step.
it really was.
Was so drastic. It felt like going from like Pokemon Black and White to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Like it was such a huge difference. There was no like in between steps.
Yeah. Yep. Uh it's really hard not to look at Rune Factory Project Dragon and not see Tears of the Kingdom, but I know that that's not how games work and that this was in development for a long time.
Yeah.
Uh
This is the one we got most information about out of those 4 games.
yes.
And
Probably because they were like, we need to show this now so that people don't think that we were just
and I need to ride my dragons, right? Like
Yeah.
I love this. I
Yeah.
want to ride a
It
dragon.
looks great.
Give me it.
It looks great. The dragons kind of look like never ending story.
Oh
type,
yeah. Oh yeah. That's funny.
Falcor. It's kind of neat.
Less
Looks
goofy.
good. Yeah, less goof. But it looks like they're that's kind of what I was getting at is it looks like they're making those steps
Yeah.
to bridge from 5 to 6 and Project Dragon to make it more what they wanted 5 to be and more what it felt
Yeah.
like 5 should have been.
Interesting. The other thing is, I've not written this in the show notes, but have we talked about the new Harvest Moon game? What are your thoughts about that?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I forgot that there was a new Harvest Moon game.
You've not seen the screenshots?
Is it The Winds of Anthos?
It is the Winds of Anthos.
I have not seen the new screenshots.
Oh my word! Let me get
I
some
think
screenshots for you.
after the One World experience.
Oh, let me tell you, right? Look, okay, first of all, do not pretend like you didn't enjoy that game.
I
Right?
played a lot of it.
It was
I mean,
it was a bad game, but I remember both of us saying that it was enjoyable bad game.
yeah, it was, and I played far more of it than I would play another game that I actually really didn't like.
Yeah. Yeah. Played more of it than you really should. But I've sent you a tweet with some screenshots in it.
Okay,
Yeah. Exactly.
I screenshots are tricky, right? Because like
Sure,
those same things could be in motion and be shocking
of course.
to look at, but so far so good. I'm a little more impressed than I guess I would have expected myself to be.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget that when, the most exciting thing we got about One World was the initial concept art. The first time we got a screenshot, it was not good. So even getting good looking
Yeah.
screenshots is an improvement.
I do see that there are the romance music notes in the dialogue box.
Well, come on, they can't go too far away from things, right? Like, still needs
Well,
to be a
yeah,
Harvest Moon game.
there still are romanceable NP. Were there romanceable characters in One World? I don't even
Yeah, it's
remember.
just neither of us bothered because we didn't
Okay,
enjoy the characters.
okay, that feels more accurate. Yeah, it looks interesting. Uh, do we have
It
any info on
has.
like release date or anything, or
Yes,
like
so it's
release
coming out
window?
at the end of September. I think it was 26th of September or something like.
Oh, that's
There
soon.
it is soon. They did say summer though, which that is not summer. But anyway, the the interesting thing about this one is it's continuing with the concept of the movable farm, the expando farm from One World. So you can still move your farm around the world. And it
Hmm.
sounds like it's a bigger world than One World, which is a
Okay.
very confusing sentence to say. And I don't know about you, but the expando farm was the best thing about that game.
Yeah. Yes.
I sent you a
I think that
second
it was
tweet
too.
with an incredible screenshot as well. Go look at that.
Oh,
Now, tell me this
volcano.
doesn't look good. Tell me
It
this doesn't.
does. It does look good. It does look really good.
So, as you say, it could still be terrible. The actual gameplay could be horrific, blah, 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 blah. But
Oh, we got a mini map.
I am
All
encouraged by
right.
this. I
Okay.
am very encouraged.
Yeah, I am too. I'm a little stressed about the idea that it's coming out in September and we've only got like 5 screenshots total so
Hmm.
far. But I'm not gonna, hold that against them. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Uh, I do see that there is a sleeping cow plush as part of the collector's box.
Possibly the best plush they've done.
Yes. And definitely m much cuter, I think, personally, than the recent Story of Seasons plushes as well.
Yep.
Oh, there are some more screenshots than just those few. Here's
Uh,
one of them interacting with a polar bear.
yeah, there's a few more. We don't have any video or actual gameplay, but
Right,
there's a few more screenshots. I just said I didn't want you to like read through everything, and we've got a podcast to make.
right, right. I'm shocked that there's this much that I like haven't seen,
Yeah.
which is pretty interesting. But I'm a little bit more interested in this than I think I was when they first announced it. I mean, I was interested in it when they first announced it. Of course, I'm gonna probably play it and
Of course you
see
are.
how it plays and stuff.
You are
But
cursed to play every
yes,
Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, and
of
Moon Factory
course,
game forever.
I've got to. I don't. I. It's not up to me anymore at this point.
All
uh,
right, let's talk about some actual news.
all right.
Nearly an hour in. Uh, so we've got an updated roadmap for Coral Island. So there's one more update before the 1.0 update. So we've got it's coming out in August. That is the Merfolk and Fall update. So that'll give more stuff in diving and some ocean caves and a festival for fall and stuff like that. And then there's the next update will be the 1.0 release, which we don't have a date for yet. But that makes it feel like it might be this year because I think they just had one in May, so that's 3 months. So even if it's like 5 months, that's still this year for the
Right.
1.0 release. But obviously, don't take my word for that, listener. And then there's a bunch of stuff that they want to do after that. And no real information on the console update is coming. Look,
Usually, how that goes.
I'm playing it on my Steam Deck, right? Like I'm not waiting.
Right.
Have you played Coral Island yet?
I have not. It looks great. I haven't played it yet. I didn't back it. I think I just wasn't as aware of it at the
Yeah.
time when it.
In terms of Stardew-esque, Harvest Moon-esque games, it's a very good one.
Okay.
Very, very much enjoyed it.
It looks
and
really good,
looking
yeah.
forward to the next updates. I think I'm certainly I've not played the summer update which came out in May. I'm definitely going to wait till at least the August update. I might wait till the 1.0 before I do any more. I'm undecided. I very much enjoyed playing it, but it's always frustrating when you hit a brick wall in your progress.
Right.
Traveller's Rest have released a new update for their early access, and this has got farm animals.
Very cute.
Get your farm animal.
One of the pictures on the Steam page is the character hugging a chicken. Very cute.
The animal sprites seem to be the most detailed sprites in this game.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, look at that cow's udders. And I can barely see the player character's nose. Like, what is this? Those two screenshots look like different games.
Well, in a farm game, the udders have function where the nose necessarily doesn't. So
I don't know. Have you ever walked into a barn with cows?
The nose has more function than you want it to. Maybe that's the reason.
Disney Dreamlight Valley have announced their next update coming this month in June. It is called The Remembering.
I'm really loving the naming conventions for everything in Dreamlight Valley. The forgetting, the remembering, what was the previous one?
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And they've announced 3 more updates that are coming after that. So there's the summer update. I'm not sure why an update coming out in June isn't a summer update, but whatever. And and that one includes what's her name from Wreck-It
It's Gamer
Ralph?
Summer. It goes from July to September. So
What's her name from Wreck-It Ralph?
Vanellope.
Vanellope. Yes, that's her name. So it includes Vanellope, and
I did see that.
I wonder if we're going to get some racing based on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
September has... Who's that? Belle. Is that Belle?
Belle? That is Belle.
Yeah.
From
Of course,
Beauty and the Beast.
I should have got that because the player character is wearing a top with the candle on
I didn't even notice that till you said
French candle, whatever his name is.
French candle. Pierre. No.
Just say random French name.
Candelabra from Beauty and the Beast. Lumiere. I was close.
Really? I guess because illuminate, whatever. Light.
Yeah.
Right, lovely.
I knew I was in the ballpark, which is the French ballpark, which just the suffix is "ier." So
What's really fascinating is we've got early June for the next update, and then we've got summer for the one after that, and then we've got September. Like, why is the third update more detailed in its release timing than the second one? That makes no sense.
it's just Gamer Summer is now just July and August.
Yeah.
September is no longer included.
And then we've got late 2023. A new chapter begins in late 2023. Now, this is just me assuming things. I think that is the 1.0 release.
I would guess so too.
A new chapter, that makes me feel like it's the point where it goes free to play. Haha, Micah. That will never not be funny, Micah. I'm sorry. But I think that what they're telling us is that it comes out then, but they're still going to be adding more content, which I guess we're kind of probably expecting, right? Like, especially with a free-to-play game, they keep adding stuff. That means people keep spending money.
Yes. That seems to make sense. It will still never not be shocking to me that this is still not like a that it's still in early access. I think mostly just because of how much content there is in the game and how long they've been making content for it.
Yeah.
That I almost wonder.
Micah, this game hasn't even been out for a year yet.
Really?
Yeah, September last year.
Oh. It feels so long.
I know.
There is a lot of content for it, which is
right,
like great, but I almost wonder if by the time it actually does release, if people are going to be like, what? It wasn't it already?
Yeah, possibly. I guess many people won't really care. The only really people who care are like, I really want to play it, but I don't want to pay for it initially. So they're the ones that are really waiting for it.
Right.
They'll get a bunch of new people playing when it's free to play, purely because it's free to play. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah,
we will.
Lots of updates coming.
Still a good game.
Yeah, I've not really played it for like 6 months or so, purely because I was only playing it on what's it called, Game Pass. Which we still don't have downloadable games on Game Pass on the Steam Deck. So, and it works fine over the streaming, but it's still over the streaming, um,
Right.
which still has some issues. So, not least, like if you literally turn off the screen for 2 seconds, it has to reconnect to the streaming, which is just a.
Yeah.
I just want to press the button and start playing my game.
Yep. Yep. I'm hoping that something about game streaming changes for the
Yeah,
better,
it
but
feels
we'll
like we're
see.
so close to it being a really nice experience.
Yeah.
But the little things that it does make it really frustrating.
Hmm.
Roots of Pacha have got a roadmap out for 3 upcoming updates. Now that you can actually buy it again. Did you see that fun?
I did not. Was it
There was
unavailable for a period of time?
Yeah, so there was the developer and the publisher had a disagreement, shall we say, over rights to the game.
Uh-oh.
So it was taken down off Steam while they were trying to figure
That's not
out how
good.
to things. So funnily enough, it happened. The resolution happened pretty quickly because nobody was getting any money. Yeah. So it's back up, all good.
Okay.
But yeah,
Well,
so
that's
they've
good.
got 3 detailed updates. So the first one is the quality of life update. I'm going to try really hard not to complain about these naming slash numbering here. So we got the quality of life update. Then we've got the 1.1 update, which is not the first update, it's the second update. This update will focus on an expansion of the current systems that includes children growing to the kid stage, plant and animal evolution, new union locations, and other romanceable blah blah. Look, if you care, the link's in the show notes. And then there's a third update, which is the 1.2 update, not which is definitely the third update, not the second update. This update will include a whole new level of content like kids growing to teen years and ball sport from this Kickstarter stretch goals, but it will mainly consist of being able to visit the Mograni and Yakuan settlement. Yeah, there's more detail in the Steam. I still haven't played Roots of Patch. If you want to see the details, they're in the show notes. Next, we have me logging into Kickstarter, apparently. There are 2 new Kickstarters out. One for Solarpunk, which we've talked about before, but probably not a huge amount, because we didn't have a huge amount of detail on before the Kickstarter came out. But now the Kickstarter's out. It is a first-person survival craft game.
I did my homework this time and watched the
Nice.
trailers for these.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's looks like a survival. It looks like a more wholesome Rust, which is like I'm interested in that. I'm curious about it because I do like Rust-like survival games, but they're also some of the most like toxic gaming environments I've ever been in.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how this pans out. Obviously, I probably wouldn't be playing with anybody but my friends at this point in my life, but it looks nice. There's a lot of really cool ideas with it, like they have the like display interface that shows the weather for the coming days and the forecast and stuff and
Yeah.
all that stuff seems pretty interesting. It feels like a first person Innocent Life, which was that like futuristic Harvest Moon game, where a lot of the technology sort of feels like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it
I
looks really nice. I think it does a really good balance of like kind of realistic and kind of stylized graphics. It's kind of a nice balance, I think.
yeah.
I'm a little bit worried because there's a screenshot that seems to have 2 different crafting tables, and I'm about to flip those tables. Um, don't know why we have to have 2 crafting tables. You're
I
gonna make
missed
me
that. I
angry.
didn't see that. What's the why are there two
I
different?
don't know. They don't detail it, but they just
Oh, I
have they
see.
have a screenshot with 2 different tables and a word that says crafting table pointing to the 2 tables.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the deal is with that. But I don't like it.
Oh, you know what? I do see it says new crafting recipes can be obtained through the research table. So it
Oh, is
looks like
that?
maybe one is a research table and one is a crafting table.
Look, it just sounds like 2 crafting tables with extra
It
steps,
it
right?
does.
Like,
Like why are they not why can't you research at the crafting table?
yeah,
I
I
guess
don't know.
for realism's sake maybe.
That's not
But
real. Like, you can reset. Oh my, no, don't even. Right, it
I do like
looks.
the idea though of the solar powered system where you just
Mm.
kind of like drag the cord between things in order to power them.
Yeah.
That seems pretty neat. Um,
It looks like it has a lot of really nice ideas, and it looks like it could be really fun to play.
yeah.
We'll just have to see how it pans out. They have
More
hit.
floating islands.
Everybody got to have it now. They've
True.
hit their funding goal, and they've hit. I've lost it. One of the stretch goals. Yeah, one of the stretch goals they've hit. They're almost about to hit a second one. So
They really kind of blew their goal away.
yeah, that
Right.
it's the classic. Put a really low goal in, and of course you'll hit it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Which fair enough. Fair enough. If
Yeah.
you want to do it, you got to build up hype. The other one is Circle of Kerzoven, which is a settlement building strategy game. And this is very much low poly,
Hmm.
especially when you see the trees. But I like it. It's quite nice.
A little bit less interested in this one.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm playing it because like this 100% looks like the type of game that stresses me out like nothing on it.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I know a lot of. I have a lot of friends that are big like settlement builder game like strategy type fans, and they would probably absolutely love this. But
Mhm.
it's not settlement building is not particularly my jam.
It's fine. Kevin will play it. He'll do an episode on it, I'm sure. I tell you, there is one settlement building game that's coming out sometime that I am really interested in that I can't remember the name of, which I'm now going to have to search. But you might be interested in this as well. It's more narrative rather than strategy. And it seems like it's less involved. And there we go, Ages of Kataria.
Oh,
Have you seen this one? The village like grows up, so like you see individual characters like getting older and stuff like that. It calls itself a village story generator.
oh, Kataria. For some reason, I heard you say Kataria, and I heard it as like Kataria Fables, which is
No,
another game that
no,
exists.
no.
I was like, oh, is this like a
Not
spin-off of
KIT.
that? That pig is cute in their banner art.
Yeah,
Yeah, this looks pretty neat.
and this I think less heavy on the like strategy aspects of things, which is the
Hmm.
stuff that stresses me out, and I suspect the bit that you don't like as well.
Yeah.
And it's more about a village growing and kind of experiencing that.
Interesting. Yeah, this does
Anyway.
look like it's a little bit more my.
Stick it on your list.
Got it. It's on.
And the final news item is just a tweet from Concerned Ape that just says Iridium Scythe.
The absolute panic that has ensued from two words.
It's amazing.
In a
There's
tweet.
so many replies and likes and quote tweets. This is insane.
I saw someone who I assume is a games journalist replied and said, "This is the first time I've written an article about two words."
There's one of the quote tweets is someone saying, "What does it mean?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What does it mean?" It means the next update is getting an Iridium Scythe. What do you think it means?
The
Oh,
full Iridium set is kind of a big deal. You know?
yeah, yeah.
It's a big deal.
All right, we're going to talk about Little Dragons Cafe finally. Awesome. Should we do a quick intro to the game? And then we can go through some more details in it and just see how it goes. We don't have to go too detailed if we want. We can just
Perfect.
talk about it, just whatever. So I guess this is it's a cafe running game, right? You run a cafe, which obviously includes a bunch of other things that you would need, like fishing and gathering things and farming and
Hmm.
dragons.
Plays like a third-person kind of action adventure style game. Like that's
Yep.
the like control scheme and stuff like that.
Yep. You are the child of your mother, I guess, who runs the cafe, and you and your sibling, because you can choose to be one or the other, are helping your mother run the cafe, and then, oh boy, you find out that your mum is ill because she's half dragon. Yes, yes, you heard that right. So,
Well, when
some
you put it
random
that way.
some random old man turns up and says, "Oh, your mum's sick because she's half dragon and her blood is confused." And you're like, "What now?" This is like let me just say this, right? We mock story premises for farming games, right? And so I'm not gonna mock this game in a bad way
Hmm.
because I love that they've tried something different. But let's just talk about how ridiculous that is.
Yeah, it's it's I believe the term that they use is that her blood is out of sync.
Oh, is that what it was? Right, okay. Out
Her
of
human
sync.
blood and her dragon blood are out of sync.
Oh man.
So it's definitely not the most normal of premises for a farming slash sim game. It's certainly it's a little wild, but it's it sets up for a really nice game.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you knew this or not, but it's like designed by the original Harvest Moon designer.
Oh really? No, I did not know that. That's
So
cool.
it's like their non-Story of Seasons, non-Harvest Moon pet project kind of thing.
Okay. Fair enough. No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, okay, right. The premise is funny, but it's also really doesn't matter, right? Like the point is just like we need to get to a point where you're running this cafe and you're growing these dragons, right? Like that's
Right.
that's what matters. Um,
I guess part of this that's important is that you get a baby dragon.
yes.
Um,
Yeah, the man who tells you that your mom is half dragon then gives you a dragon. Which, by the
mhm.
way, I have many questions, right? Like I've not played a huge amount of this game, so I don't know whether these things are explained. But I'm going to guess it doesn't explain why your mom is half dragon.
No.
What happened there?
As far at least as far as I have about 50 hours in the game.
Yeah, I do
Um,
not.
and I had to go back when you asked me. I had to go back and play some of it to kind of like refresh myself on like obviously the environment and the like general gameplay and everything was such a like nice experience that that's what I remember, but the
Yeah,
story and the actual mechanics and stuff like that, like the the little details I
yeah.
didn't remember quite as much. So I had to re-experience that, but I do remember now after going back because I wanted to advance the game a little bit more that a lot
Hmm.
of the story is not central to you and your family, at least in the earliest part of the game, or like the earlier portions. I don't know how many chapters there are. I'm on chapter, I think, 4 or 5.
Right. Okay.
And every chapter focuses on a new NPC character
Hmm.
that kind of like the story is kind of like it's these new characters that are kind of blowing into they're coming in with the wind to the to the cafe and
Hmm.
you have a an experience so there's like a short story with that character and then they go off about their business.
Hmm.
So it's interesting in that way that like you get these little stories. The stories are not like, written really incredibly. They're not like masterpiece writing or anything like that, but they're
Yeah.
neat characters. Like one of them was a witch that was trying not to like reveal that she was a witch or she lost her powers, I think is what it was, and she was trying to like regain her powers. And what was helping her regain her powers was like certain tastes and things like that. So you had to like cook certain foods and then she would it would kind of like bring back memories that would help her regain uh her magical abilities and stuff like that. So there are like all of these characters in the world that are it's all very fantasy based, right?
Yeah.
Like there are orcs, there's elves, there's you know um there's the different like fantasy races. So it's not like and everybody seems to just not really recognize like it's not like a not like a surprise that there are these other fantasy races within this world. So
Yeah.
I don't know at what point they're like, oh my god, mom's half dragon, like that's shocking to us, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot that's shocking in this
Yeah,
world.
I will say that that did shock them. I think it probably shocked them because they didn't know it rather than shock
Right.
them because this is a bizarre idea. Like they took it in their stride very quickly, but they were, yeah, initially like, what? Like surprised by that. So yeah,
Yeah. So there there is, I guess, the like primary mechanic, non like sim mechanic, is that this you're kind of helping this dragon grow up and like taking care of it.
yeah,
Uh, so it does over time. The dragon grows, and it has different stages of growth, like baby, and then child, and then adolescent, and then adult, and that I think is synced primarily to the story, how the story progresses.
makes
There are
sense.
like
Yeah,
certain milestones in the story progression that are guaranteed then that once you hit this, then the dragon is going to grow up to the next stage.
yeah, yeah,
And every
makes sense.
time it grows, then it gains more abilities to unlock more parts of the world. So like when it hits the child phase, then it has the ability to like push boulders
Hmm.
to let next to ledges to let you jump up to the next level. I think the next one is then that it lets you destroy piles of wood that are blocking things and stuff like that. And then I believe I haven't hit this, but just from seeing screenshots and stuff, I believe the adult stage is when you get to fly around and you can
Yeah,
kind of go wherever you want.
yeah. Let's be honest, that's where we all want to be, right?
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is story doesn't really matter, right? Like there's quest stories which are fun to do, but the
yeah,
only really important story thing that you with 50 hours in the game come away with is you're raising this dragon.
yes. Uh, there are. I mean, it is tied. There is a lot of story in these like chapter segments. Um, and you have to go through that story in order to get to the next like stage for the dragon. So
Yeah.
whether or not you want to experience that and or just like kind of skip through it is one thing. I will say the game does a very good job of like telling you what to do next,
Hmm.
almost maybe like too clearly, where there's like a story menu.
Yeah.
In the menu you can go to like the story section and it'll say, hint, do this
I think
to
that's
advance the
okay. I
story.
quite like it because it's like if you want to just kind of get to that point where you have this dragon, you just want to get through the story and then you can do whatever you want at that
Right.
point. Like I like being able to do that, like just going, yeah, like here's how you do the next bit of story, right? But like if you don't care about that, you can just ignore it and that's totally fine, right? Like this game works well as a standard cottagecore game of just playing through days and doing your daily tasks and meeting
Right.
people and doing things for them like that. There's nothing wrong with that, and I just really like the like, oh yeah, if you want to do the story, here's the next thing you do to do the story. You
Hmm.
know, I don't have to
Yeah.
figure it out. I just have to do it.
Yeah, and I do really like that too. I think that I guess what I mean by that is when it says like hint,
Yeah.
it's not really a hint. It's just like this
It's
is the
telling
next
you
step.
what to do. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
the
telling
word,
you like
just get rid of the word
go to
hint, I
bed
think is all
and
you need to
then
do.
the next cutscene will play.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much is what it's
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, it's like the like the most recent one is like hint, search the cafe and find the recipe fragments and get some sleep when you're done. Yeah, that's not a hint. That's just telling you what to do,
That's
which is
just a
fine.
that's
Which
just a
is
walkthrough
fine.
at that
Just
point.
get rid of that word, right? Just
Yeah.
get rid of the word hint. Although I will say that one really confused me because it says search the cafe for recipe fragments. I searched the cafe. There were no recipe fragments. What it meant was search outside the cafe. They're outside.
The area
That I
surrounding the
spent
cafe.
half an hour trying to figure out where these recipe fragments were in the cafe. Silly me thinking search the cafe means search inside the cafe. Oh my word. Whatever. I eventually went out and got them. All right, cool.
uh
Shall
there
we? Oh,
there
sorry.
are I was just gonna say I think that the the advancement of the story at that speed is really nice, but
Yeah.
there's also moments where it's like run the cafe, like to get to the next cutscene or whatever, run the
Oh,
cafe
okay.
for a certain amount of days or like get to a
Okay.
certain
So you
point in
can't just speed
repetition.
run the story then. You do have to
Right, so
actually
you
play the
do
game for a
have
while.
to like go out and get ingredients and things like
Hmm.
that, and which
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe kind of leads
Well,
us into
let's
the next
perfect timing.
segment.
Let's talk about the
Yeah.
mechanics then. So, we'll talk about the farming and gathering stuff together because it's basically the same, right? So,
Yeah.
you're not really farming, right? The way that this works is you have a little farm, you've got like a little plot of land for growing things, and you got a little plot of land for your chickens. And you just turn up and you look and you see, oh, they're ready to harvest, and you harvest them and then you go away, right? You don't plant, you don't water, you don't tend them. There's none of that. It's just you turn up and the stuff is there.
Right. The only thing that you do is you can use manure,
Yes,
dragon
you can
manure
speed it up.
specifically,
Yeah,
that you get from the bed that the dragon sleeps in, which I've got questions about. Um,
yeah. Toilet train your dragon,
Not
dude.
potty trained apparently.
My
Yeah.
word.
But you can at least at the point that I'm at, the like max that you can have at any one time is 9 dragon manure,
Right.
and you can use that dragon manure on your farm and on other things too to specifically on your farm. It's to speed up
Yeah,
the growth, and you can, I don't know, pump like 3 or 4 into your farm and just like harvest immediately,
yeah,
if you need something on the spot.
yeah, yeah. So it's not completely passive, but it's
Right.
basically passive, right? Like,
Pretty much.
um,
Can
and then
I?
that ties into there's also general gathering as well. Like
Mhm.
around there are things like well, I mean, similar to the stuff that you farm, but also other stuff. So like I found onions both in the farm and at the gather spots. There's like random little rocks and plants and stuff that sparkle when there's stuff to get, and you go up and you grab it like 6 times and you've got 6 things.
Yeah. You have to gather chickens in order to get chicken.
No, you start off with the chicken.
You do start off with a chicken, but if you want more chickens, you have to go gather them
Right, okay.
and bring them to your farm, which is like
Fair enough. Am
an
I stealing them
interesting
from
thing.
someone?
Uh, I think they're just wild chickens. But the thing
That's not
that
a. I mean, theoretically, it's a thing, right? But like, you're not just gonna find like if I went out of my house and I found a chicken, that's somebody's chicken. I'm just stealing someone's chicken at that point. Like,
yeah,
I know we're more rural than that, but even then, like chickens, they're not really wild anymore. I know this is a fantasy world, so whatever, it doesn't matter.
you know, okay, so apparently I'm looking at the wiki right now because I had a question about something else related to the chickens. Apparently they're called egg birds. So they're maybe wild egg birds, not necessarily chickens.
Oh, okay.
They're basically chickens though,
That's all
let's be
right
honest.
then. That's okay then.
But there are different colored chickens that lay different colored eggs. And then they kind of
Oh, I haven't come across that yet.
so my only gripe about the chickens is that they have kind of turned it into more of a like gathering part of the game than a farming part of the game.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when you gather a chicken and bring it back, it will lay eggs for a certain amount of time, and then it will disappear, and then you have to go regather the chicken from that location,
Oh no.
which is not a and as far as I know, there's no way to like keep them on your farm.
That's not
It's just
good.
it's like timed so that you have a couple days of like you get chickens, but I will say the actual locations that they're in, like they go back to the same location every time, so it's kind of like if you play it enough and you gather these chickens enough when you're out gathering other things, then you kind of know where those locations are, so you can just do like a quote unquote chicken run and just go get all your chickens.
I love Chicken Run. Are you gonna watch the new film that comes out this year?
I honestly forgot that that was a thing and said that unironically.
It's coming out in December. The new Chicken Run. I'm so excited. What a year for animated films.
I didn't realize there was a new chicken run, I guess.
Yeah. Coming out in December.
To
I
be
think it's
fair, I think that chicken run is a lot bigger over there than it is over here.
well, yeah, I mean it is Aardman. We love Aardman over here.
Right.
Sorry,
um
bit of a
so
distraction there.
that's the like my primary gripe with the chickens is that there's
Yeah.
no like
Yeah. That's yeah, I haven't experienced that. I can see how that would be annoying. Yeah, I'm not it's not particularly a detailed and exciting farming mechanic, right? This is not a farming game as such. It's very much like the farming is there to give you stuff rather than as gameplay in and of itself,
Yeah.
which is fine. But if you're looking for a game with, you know, obviously you're not looking for a game with detailed farming because then you'd be playing Farming Simulator. But if you're looking for a game that like actually does some kind of level of farming, this ain't it.
Right. That's true. Yeah, and it does streamline some of that stuff too. Like if you find, you go out and you find certain ingredients or whatever, when you bring them back, it kind
Oh
of
yeah,
logs that.
automatically puts them in your fridge and stuff like that,
Yeah, it puts
which I
them in
quite
your fridge,
like.
but then it also logs it as like it adds it to your farm, so that like when you harvest
Oh,
stuff, then you,
nice.
you'll still most likely get those things. Like
So
I
that's how I've ended up finding the same things in both my farm and out and about because that is actually how it works.
right. Yeah, so I like yesterday when I was playing it again, there was a specific dish that I was running out of an ingredient for, and I couldn't remember where it was, and I spent time looking around, running around trying to find which, piece of land I had to be on in order to get it, because they're different ingredients show up on different portions of the map, and I couldn't remember where it was, and then I kind of gave up, went back, and uh, in my head, I'm like, how did I get to it if I can't, like it must have existed at some point that I have it, like I have a dish for it. And I went back and I harvested the stuff in my farm, and then I got like five of them. I was like, oh, okay. So I just got it once, and it, logs it in the. I
Cool.
forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So that kind of makes it a little bit easier in the future too, when you just kind of have to log it once, and then obviously if you want more and you want to like have a certain amount of them,
Yeah,
then you got to go get more of
find
it.
it
But
again. Yeah.
which will be a lot easier once you get to adult stage and you can just fly to the location that you need to
Yes, absolutely.
get. So
Cool. So that's farming, gathering type stuff, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about cooking next, because I think we kind of move straight into that from farming.
hmm
This is probably the most actual gameplay in the game, I would say.
yeah,
And it's like, so obviously you've got your people that come in and you have to get their orders and then you have to place the order. Don't know why I have to place the order if I'm the one that's going to cook it anyway, right? But whatever. So you go to the person, you find out what they want, and then you go to the checkout and you say what they want, and then you go and cook what they want. And the cooking minigame is a rhythm game.
it
Who'd
is,
have thought it?
and I
Anybody who
love
watched
that.
the trailer, who would have thought it? Yeah, no, I think
Yeah,
it's I
it's
think it's
true.
great. I don't I like it. Yeah, no, it's good fun. It's not the most detailed and fun mini game rhythm game.
No,
It's no Guitar Hero, but
it's slightly. There's always this like sensitivity with
yeah,
rhythm games that scales in weird ways sometimes, and it's definitely one of those where like the sensitivity kind of, you can be what looks like dead on, and it's actually like
yeah,
too late.
yeah. You
There's
have I
always like,
find that you have to be slightly ahead
yeah,
of it, but I mean, like as with all rhythm games, if you can get good at it, you can get good at it, right?
hmm,
Like the second time I cooked, I got four out of 5 stars, right? Like it's
right,
if you're good at rhythm games, you can get good at this really quick.
yeah. So you can log, you cook and then you log those recipes, and you build a menu based on those recipes. So like you can have a whole bunch of different recipes in your inventory, or your kitchen inventory, or whatever you want to call it, like your recipe book, and then you can pick from those recipes that you've already made to build a menu for customers to order off of.
Hmm.
And there are different levels to like how good the recipe is will depend
Yeah,
on how well you do in the rhythm game. So if you hit every single note perfectly, then you'll get like a five chef hat recipe, or whatever it is, whatever the scale is. And then it adds like extra bonuses to the item, so that when it's on your menu and people order it, you get bonus reputation and stuff like that, which is really like that's the core of the game, is you is running this cafe. Like all of this stuff is feeding into running the cafe, like
Yeah.
collecting things, foraging and whatever to build recipes, to build a menu to have this cafe, which runs, I think it runs 3 times a day. You have like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but breakfast is like, I don't think is like a lot of people come in for breakfast. It's more like a lunch rush and then a dinner rush.
Hmm.
And just so you're aware too, because it sounds like maybe you didn't get to this point yet, but some
Almost
of
certainly.
the
Whatever you're about to say, I almost certainly didn't get to that point.
I had to think about it because when you're like, I don't know why I have to cook and also take the order and so on, but there is a point where the first I think the first 3 NPCs that come in and have like a story for them, those 3 NPCs then become employees
Hmm.
of the cafe.
Yeah.
So one of them is like a really fancy orc that has like great tastes and whatever, and they become the chef for your cafe. And then then there's like an elf that plays guitar or something. He becomes one of the servers, and then there's another character that becomes a server. So eventually, you have between your other sibling and these NPCs, you have a chef, and then you have 3 people on staff to take orders, submit the orders, deliver, serve the food, and then clean up the plates. So the goal eventually is then that you won't have to be around in order to like do anything. The cafe will kind of run itself, but you still want it. There are moments where the employees will slack off, and you have to like kind of kick them out of it.
Oh no. Does this game make you a capitalist?
It's
I'm not
it,
okay with this.
in a very gentle way, maybe.
Oh man. It's like you're the cool boss who just comes in and says,
Yeah, yeah,
"Hey
yeah.
guys, I love that you enjoy chatting, but can we maybe get some work done?"
And it's really specific things like the elf that plays guitar will just like randomly stop and start playing guitar in the middle of the
Oh, come on, who can be mad at
which like
that?
you
Come
know it's
on.
not good guitar playing, I'll say
Oh,
that.
okay, never mind then. That's
So
who
you
can be
just
mad at
kind of
that
walk
then.
over and talk to them and they go, "Oh, sorry, I forgot what I was doing," or whatever. So you can realistically you can just walk away and spend the entire day foraging
Hmm.
and let the cafe run itself and not micromanage and it will still run. It's just that the reputation may not like increase as quickly as it could if you're there and helping out. I also kind of just like the little menial tasks of like picking up the dishes and putting them away and like serving the food and whatever, and it's such a like
Look,
short time frame that there's a rush hour that it doesn't really
yeah.
get in the way of anything. So
Look, Micah, you don't have to justify liking the menial tasks. This is a podcast about cottagecore games.
they're
Menial tasks is
even
our
as
bread
far
and
as
butter.
even as far as cottagecore games go, they're still pretty menial.
Yeah, yeah.
but
I
but
mean,
it's
like, there's not really gradations of menial, right? Like, what's the difference between picking up plates and watering crops? Especially when you have 3,000 of them in the late game of Stardew, right?
yeah,
Like,
that's
come
true.
on.
You're right. So yeah, that part of the like cafe running aspect of it is there if you really want to focus on that. Otherwise, you can just kind of like let it run itself and go out and forage and
Yeah,
do whatever you want,
yeah,
explore the world.
yeah, yeah. And I
But it
think
does
I
get
think the thing
easier
is
over
that
time.
you could absolutely play this game even if you don't like the exploration aspect of things, because you don't
Hmm.
really need to do that if you don't want to progress the story. Which,
Right.
like, why are you doing it if you'd want it? But whatever. Like, I'm not going to judge people how they play these.
Hmm.
Like, if you just want to run a cafe, it's quite fun to.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Your dragon is with you pretty
Yes,
much all the
just
time.
follows you around. Although I presume he gets quicker as he gets bigger, because he's really slow right now.
Uh, yeah, I guess I didn't really that may be true. I think at the point that I'm at, it just kind of follows me everywhere I go without really much
Yeah.
effort. I don't really remember that
Well,
as
like,
the
I just
baby,
went
but
down to the beach and I was doing some stuff, and then I turned around and he just arrived as I was about to leave.
oh, okay. Yeah,
Just
that
like
that
really
sounds
slow.
about
I mean,
right.
it's not. He's just got teeny tiny legs, right? I get it,
Yeah,
but
he's a little baby dragon.
yeah. But he doesn't follow you in that kind of like Pokemon following kind of way where he's like always stuck one step behind you. He just kind
Hmm.
of wanders around on his own, kind of vaguely coming towards you, which
Yep.
is quite cool.
And then there are certain aspects of foraging that you can get the dragon's help with too. Like there's little
Yes.
caves where there'll be, I don't know, meat or something inside
Yeah.
that you can't go in, so you whistle for your dragon and it comes over and searches the
Yeah.
little cave.
Yeah.
Um
Oh, maybe the dragon was just tired because he just went to bed and now he's much quicker.
oh, yeah, maybe you do have to like that's another part of this is that like the cooking does also like you have to cook in order to make dishes,
Yes, and you feed your
obviously.
dragon.
And you have to feed your dragon.
I love the idea of me feeding my dragon just like a fried egg.
Yeah.
Like, here,
There's
dude,
also
have
like
a fried egg.
there's a little mini game in there. I don't know if you knew this or not. They don't really make it super clear, but there's a mini game in there where certain foods have certain colors. So like there's a red type of food, a green type of
Ooh.
food, and a blue type of food.
Hmm.
And depending on what food you feed your dragon can change the color of your dragon.
Yeah, they do say that right at the beginning, but
Okay.
I could see how you would miss it quite easily.
And it's not like super like if you want a teal dragon, you have to feed them combinations of like green and blue foods in order
Yeah,
to get them to that gradation.
yeah.
Which is like kind of interesting. There's also, I guess, haven't gotten to it, but I've seen that there are white and black foods too that will change it to like a white dragon or a black dragon.
Ooh, I want a black
Um,
dragon.
yeah, me too.
One small thing about the cooking, just before we move on. I'm
Mhm.
a little bit frustrated that when you're cooking eggs, this is excellent and not excellent. That's
That is unfortunate. I do agree with that. I don't know what the decision was there to not include the word excellent, but I'm also disappointed in it.
fishing, pretty simple. There's like fishing spots, and you go in, you press to fish, and then you press when the exclamation mark comes up, and the fish
Hmm.
comes up. That's it. Although you do also have a little mini fish farm, which is like your normal farm where like random fish will spawn, and you can just get them. You don't have to
Yep.
do, which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and there are in that area too where your little fishing pond is, there's also lots of like recipe fragments will show up there too throughout the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which is I guess we didn't even really talk about that, but you have to collect the recipes by there's each recipe has like four fragments and you have to
It's
collect all four fragments to create the recipe.
it's like someone blew up a recipe book outside. Like
Yeah,
I
it
don't
really
understand
is.
the logic behind this. Why did this happen?
And they always show up in like one page floating on like shipwreck
Yeah.
debris.
So bizarre.
It's like a cruise ship with a huge recipe book on it exploded.
Yeah, I guess that's everything fishing wise. It's pretty simple, right?
Yeah, it is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward.
We talked about the dragons a lot throughout the other things. I don't know, is there anything else we want to talk about dragons wise?
Your mom is part dragon.
As you do.
Yep. The dragon is very cute. I do like the dragon a lot. I
Yeah.
like the design of the dragon. I've seen what the dragon looks like as an adult too, and it's very neat design kind of all throughout. It makes cute noises. It kind of yells at you when it's hungry and stuff like that.
I mean, big mood.
Yeah. This isn't related specifically to the dragons, but there is one aspect of this game that I do really love, and it's that there is no requirement for bedtime,
Ooh, I hadn't
which is
noticed that.
kind of nice. You
What
don't
happens if you
ever
stay
have
up
to
then?
go to sleep. Pretty much nothing.
Huh.
You
Except with the
don't.
story bits that make you sleep.
Yes, there are story bits that make you sleep, so you can't advance those. The game saves when you go to sleep, so you kind of have to every once in a while go to bed in order to save your game, so you don't lose progress. I don't know for sure if this is true or not, but I kind of assume that this is the case. You don't really get the manure unless your dragon goes to
Right.
bed, and
Yeah.
because your dragon is always with you. I think you
Makes sense.
you won't get it unless they go to bed, but that may not be the case. It may still show up.
Go to bed or your dragon will be constipated.
But as long as you have dishes and you're feeding your dragon, when they're hungry, you can stay up as long as you want. You can stay up. There's no penalty for not sleeping. I think the only penalty you get is if you go to bed after like 4:30, or if you go to bed before like 4:30 or something like that, then you'll sleep in an hour. Uh, but if you go to bed after 4:30, I think then you just sleep through the day. Like you
Right.
just
Yeah.
it's the next day at that point, so you just kind of sleep through it. Um,
Fair enough.
you do there are more penalties for like going to bed early than there are for just staying up. Like you'll just miss portions of the day rather than just like staying up all night. And because I've found that the best cycle for me at least is to do my foraging and my like recipe stuff during the day, sticking around the cafe so that I can help out when during rush hour when the cafe's open, and then after the cafe, the like after the dinner time hours, then I go out and do the foraging and
Yeah.
am out pretty much all night.
Fair enough.
And that's kind of been my cycle, unless I have to go to bed for the story or I want to go to bed because I want to save the game.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we've talked about kind of like are there any other mechanics that you think that we've not covered that I don't know, maybe the stuff that I've just not got to yet.
Mm, there are like enemies sort of throughout the game. There's like
Can I tell my dragon to go get them?
you can, yeah. Your dragon
Nice.
will quote unquote hunt them. They can
Amazing.
also attack you and like knock you out. Uh it depends on what it is. That like there's I can't recall what the name of them what the name of the they're like warthogs basically, I guess maybe is like
Right.
they're like boars
Yeah.
where they're like they provide like meat, and if you hunt them then you get the meat.
Nice. Did
But
I
they'll
not get the
also
meat for the
try to
monsters?
attack
That's
you.
sad.
Well, these are like the monsters basically. They're like the monsters of the game. um and then there's birds that are flying around that don't really attack you, but you get like poultry meat from them. And then there's different like skills of those, like bigger, more tougher versions and things like that. Uh, yeah, there's I guess beyond that, it's just that the world map expands as you play, as the dragon grows up. You have more accessibility to certain parts of the map. And that means more foraging options. That means more recipes. That means, expanding your cafe and stuff like that. But I think that I'm sort of feeling more like the strategy for the game. Obviously, play however you want, and whatever is, you know, the comfortable way for you to play. But I sort of feel like the strategy to get to the point where you can like access everything is just to do what you got to do to get through the story first, because there's a lot of story,
Yeah.
and you only really unlock all of the things that you can do once you've gotten through certain milestones in the stories.
Yeah. Fair enough. Cool. I guess. Well, it's overall. I think this is fun. It very much feels to me. I think it depends on how the story goes, whether that bit is actually good or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think in terms of like your standard cottagecore stuff, it fun enough and a lot. It certainly feels like there's a lot of love put into this game, and it's very cute with the dragon. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the cafe style of things. Right, that's just not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like farming more, and
Sure.
I like farming and then just selling stuff, right? Like I don't the mini game for cooking is fun, but I suspect will get annoying over time.
Yeah, as you need to like upgrade your recipes and things like that, it does get a little bit. I mean, it gets harder and harder. The crazier the recipe is, the
Yeah,
harder it gets. Um,
yeah, yeah. But I mean, it seems quite fun, and it's definitely very cute. And who can say no to riding on a dragon?
yeah, it's definitely a cute game. It's like a very comfy game. It's not particularly demanding of you. The fact that there's very little restrictions and very little punishment in the game, like not like huge stakes, makes it a more relaxing experience in that way. Like
Yeah.
you can just really play it at your own pace and play it how you want. It does feel, especially now going back to it after like years of having not played it, it still has a very specific aesthetic that feels pleasant.
Yeah.
But it also does. I do recognize that there are a lot of like design flaws with it.
Mm.
Like just some in the way that like you move around, like controls, things like that. Obviously not like crazy as far as graphics go, not like
Yeah.
an incredibly detailed, it's not like it's not terrible, but it's not
I think,
like,
yeah, I think it's fine. Like, it's one of these things where the more stylized a game is, the better it ages, and
hmm
it's fine. Like, it
yeah,
looks fine. It doesn't look bad, you know. Uh,
right,
but yeah, I guess we'll see in 10 years what it looks like.
right.
But yeah, I think the controls wise is generally okay, but like, I think when you're in the cafe, things feel a little sticky. Shall we say?
hmm
It's certainly
Yes.
I definitely enjoy being outside more than inside.
Yeah, I agree. There's a little bit of navigation when it gets to things like platforming and stuff that's a little weird outside.
Yeah.
Um, but the overall the kind of you're right. The inside the cafe, especially when it's like peak hours and you've got multiple employees and everybody's kind of moving around, it can be very frustrating and like how many times you're bumping into things or like
Yeah.
not getting to the point that you need to get in order to activate whatever it is that
Exactly.
you're trying to
Exactly.
press. Uh, but yeah, all in all, I think I don't know what it runs now cost wise.
So it's still like its normal price is still the standard $60, I think.
Is it really? Is it a
Yeah.
$60?
It was, I think it was, or was it 50? Or 50.
Okay.
So it's sitting at currently 46, 49 pounds. But they go on sale for an insane amount, right? Like it was just on sale for 15 quid.
hmm
So like do not buy this at full price.
Right.
Like they do it like yeah, literally I bought this game in March for 15 quid on the Switch and it was the same price on Steam. Like just go wait for that. Like it
Right.
happens regularly. So yeah,
hmm
good
Yeah,
fun.
it's I think worth it at a not full price for sure. I remember buying it at full price, but I also got like
It
50
feels like a
hours out of
standard for
it.
you.
So yeah, that's how it goes at this point. But I got 50 hours out of it, so I feel pretty good about that
Yeah. So it looks like they go on
value.
sale on basically every Steam sale. So it was on sale in the spring sale, it was on sale in the winter sale, the autumn sale, the summer
Okay.
sale, the New Year sale, the winter sale, the autumn sale, the Halloween sale. Like it just they seem to every time there's a big Steam sale, they go down to 15 quid. So
Okay. Yeah, so just maybe wait for that.
yeah, no, especially as presumably we've got a summer one coming soon.
Yep.
I've not actually looked at that. When have we got dates for that?
Definitely worth it on sale.
No, yeah, I think 15 quid. If you like that sort of game, it's I like. I don't. I'm probably not going to put in 50 hours into this game,
Yeah.
right? But I think it is worth it for if you're going to put, 10 into
hmm
it. Like it's worth it for that. I think it's a good. It's fun enough.
Right.
July, 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks of July is the summer sale. Apparently.
Okay. Got it. So about a month.
Yeah,
Come back, pick it up for
have a look.
15 quid. I don't know what that is in I don't know what the exchange rate is.
Basically 1-to-1 just now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
£1 is it's one well, okay, £1 is $1.25, so it's
Oh,
gone
okay.
gone up a bit. There was a point last year where it almost hit parity. £1 was worth $1.08. That
Yeah.
was we don't need to talk about. All right, cool. Well, thank you, Micah, for joining me to talk about this game that
Yeah,
you
of
haven't played
course.
for 4 or 5 years.
I'm happy to talk about it. It was a reason for me to start playing it again, and
Yeah,
I am already back in that like gameplay loop of running around and collecting things and getting recipes, and it's kind of nice, and it makes me want to finish it.
yeah.
So I may do that now.
Cool. Where can people find you on the internet?
Until it implodes, I'm on Twitter still.
We keep
At
thinking it's
Micah the
going to implode,
Brave.
but it just keeps going somehow.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's the gift that you didn't want. I'm on Instagram too, also at Micah the Brave. I'm on Tumblr, micahthebrave.tumblr.com, or whatever it is. That's pretty much it for now, until something else comes along.
Cool.
That is better, I guess. That's pretty much where you can find me.
Cool. You can find me on Twitter at the Scottbot. I'm also the same username at mastodon.scott. You can find the podcast on Twitter at THSPod. You can find links to everything from this episode and all the other episodes, including transcripts of the podcast on the website, harvestseason.club, and in the show notes on your podcast app. Also on the website, you can find a feedback form if you want to send any feedback in. You can do it that way. And you can also find a link to our Patreon, patreon.com/thspod, if you want to come and join us in our Slack and listen to the bonus episodes that you get. The most recent episode was me and Johnny talking about Ted Lasso, now that that's finished.
I am going to have to listen to that because I don't know anything about Ted Lasso.
Well, you'll have to subscribe. And I think we've got Zelda 1 upcoming, as Micah hinted. That should be next week, I think. But I need to actually edit. That's a pretty long one. I think that's our longest Greenhouse episode in quite a while, that Zelda one. So look forward to that.
I think understandable.
I think that's everything. Thank you, Micah, for joining me.
Of course, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on again. It's always nice.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see you when Story of Seasons A Wonderful Life comes out.
Absolutely.
And listeners, thank you for listening. And until next time, have a good harvest.
Good harvest. I wasn't sure if you would change that too.
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
No change. The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. I'm going to go play Zelda.
Yeah, I'm probably going to do the same thing until I have a work event at like 5 o'clock in like 2 hours. So I'll get as much Zelda time in as I can.